Have you ever noticed how loud the world has become? Not just the noise of traffic, voices, or ringing phones, but the endless chatter inside your own head. A constant stream of thoughts, worries, regrets, and plans for tomorrow. It's like standing in the middle of a crowded market where every voice is calling out for your attention. No wonder so many of us feel exhausted, restless, and disconnected from ourselves. But what if I told you that there's a simple, ancient practice that can calm this storm? A practice so subtle, so gentle, yet powerful enough to transform your entire experience of life. It's not some secret mantra or mystical ritual. It's something you've known all along, but perhaps forgotten. It's the power of silence. In the teachings of the Buddha, silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's a profound stillness that allows us to truly hear. To hear the quiet wisdom of the present moment. To notice the rise and fall of our own breath. And to witness the constant dance of thoughts without getting swept away by them. Have you ever watched a calm lake at dawn? The surface so smooth it mirrors the sky. Every ripple magnified, every sound crystal clear. That is the mind in silence, unshaken, aware, and deeply alive. In today's video, we're going to explore how Buddhist wisdom teaches us to embrace stillness, and why cultivating moments of silence isn't just good for the mind, it's essential for the soul. We'll uncover how silence holds the key to clarity, compassion, and inner peace in a world that never seems to stop talking. So, if you've been feeling overwhelmed, if your thoughts seem to be pulling you in every direction, or if you've simply forgotten what it feels like to be truly present, stay with me. What you're about to discover might just be the most precious gift you can give yourself. You see, in Buddhist tradition, silence is not merely a practice of holding your tongue or sitting in a quiet room. It's a profound invitation to return home, to yourself. In a world constantly demanding that we react, respond, and rush forward, silence gently asks us to pause, to notice, and to simply be. It's in those moments of stillness that we begin to hear the subtle teachings life offers us. The Buddha often retreated into forests and mountains, not because he rejected the world, but because he understood the value of quiet spaces. In those silent places, where the rustling of leaves or the distant call of a bird was the loudest sound, he found clarity, and it was there, in that sacred stillness, that insight arose. Have you ever noticed how the mind settles when you sit beneath a tree? Or listen to the soft rhythm of rain tapping against a window? There's something ancient and healing in those moments. The noise inside begins to fade, and a gentle awareness takes its place. It's as if the whole world exhales, and for the first time in a long while, you can truly hear your own heart. This is what Buddhist masters call noble silence. It's a kind of silence that isn't empty, but full of presence. It's a silence that listens, a silence that sees, and through it, we begin to realize that so much of our suffering isn't caused by the world itself, but by the endless commentary we attach to it. A harsh word from a stranger becomes a wound because we replay it in our minds, adding layers of meaning and self-judgment. A simple mistake turns into a crisis because we fuel it with relentless inner dialogue. But in the space of silence, those stories lose their power. The mind slows, the heart softens. We remember that every thought is like a cloud passing through the sky, appearing, drifting, and eventually dissolving. Nothing stays, and in that truth, we find peace. There's a beautiful story about a wandering monk who once approached the Buddha. Seeking wisdom, he asked, "Master, what is the highest teaching?" The Buddha didn't speak. He simply looked up at the sky, then down at a lotus blooming by his side. The monk waited, puzzled, but in that wordless moment, something shifted. The monk understood. The greatest teaching isn't always found in words. Sometimes, it's in the quiet spaces between them. How often do we fill those spaces with noise? Afraid of what we might find in the silence? Afraid that if we stop thinking, stop talking, we might have to face ourselves? But what if, instead of fearing it, we welcomed that stillness like an old friend? What if silence wasn't emptiness, but a doorway, a passage back to what is real, steady, and whole within us? In these sacred pauses, we reconnect with awareness itself. The awareness that watches thoughts rise and fall. The awareness that holds joy and sorrow with equal tenderness. The awareness that never leaves, even when the world feels chaotic. And as we learn to dwell in that space more often, we discover a resilience deeper than any storm. A calm that no amount of external noise can disturb. So today, I invite you to embrace the power of silence, not as a retreat from life, but as a return to it. To notice the quiet moments, however brief, the hush before dawn, the pause between breaths, the space between heartbeats. In those tiny, overlooked moments, you'll find the doorway to peace has been open all along. It's easy to forget that silence is always available to us. It's not something we need to search for on mountaintops or in distant monasteries. It lives within the spaces of our everyday lives. In the pause before we respond to someone. In the quiet moments just before sleep. In the stillness of early morning when the world is not yet awake. Sometimes, it only takes a few seconds to remember who you truly are beneath the layers of worry, ambition, and endless distraction. In those moments, you might realize that peace was never something you had to chase. It was always waiting, quietly, beneath the noise. One of the most beautiful teachings in Buddhism is that the mind is like a clear, still pond. Every thought, every emotion is like a pebble tossed into that water. Some make small ripples, others create waves. But if you stop throwing stones, if you stop feeding every thought with more thoughts, the water eventually becomes calm again. The reflection returns. Clarity is restored. Can you imagine what it would feel like to let your mind settle in that way? To watch each thought rise and fall without clinging to it, without pushing it away, to simply let it be, like clouds drifting lazily across a blue sky. That is the heart of Buddhist mindfulness. Not to control the mind, but to understand it, to witness it, and through that gentle awareness, to find freedom. When we embrace silence, we also begin to notice how much of our suffering is optional. How many of our worries are nothing more than old habits of thought. Recycled stories we've told ourselves for years. The mind loves to chase problems, to fixate on what might go wrong, to relive old wounds. But in silence, those patterns lose their grip. You see them for what they are, passing clouds, not permanent storms. A Zen master once said, "Silence is not the absence of something. It's the presence of everything." In that quiet, you become more aware of the world around you, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of leaves moving in the wind, the steady rhythm of your own breath. You realize you are connected to something far greater than yourself. Not in a grand, mystical way, but in the simple, undeniable truth of this present moment. And here's the beautiful part: the more often you allow yourself these moments are quiet, the more natural they become. You start to carry that stillness with you, even in the middle of noise and chaos. It becomes a steady anchor, a safe haven you can return to at any time. In difficult conversations, during stressful days, or when anxiety creeps in at night, you can pause. You can breathe. You can remember that you are not your thoughts, not your worries, not the stories your mind spins. You are the awareness watching it all. So as we continue this journey together, I invite you to notice where silence already lives in your life. Seek out those small, overlooked moments. Turn down the volume of the world for just a little while each day. Not because you need to escape, but because in that silence, you reconnect with what is real, steady, and unshakable within you. And that, more than anything else, is where true peace begins. As you begin to welcome silence into your life, you may notice something beautiful unfolding. The more you embrace stillness, the more clearly you start to see yourself, not the restless, anxious version shaped by the outside world, but the quiet awareness that has always been watching from within. It's a return to your natural state, a place where you no longer need to perform, to impress, or to chase after constant validation. In these moments of quiet, you realize how much of your identity has been shaped by noise. The opinions of others, the endless stream of information, the persistent voice in your head reminding you of what you should be doing, where you should be going, and who you should become. But silence asks none of that from you. It offers a rare, sacred permission to simply exist, as you are, right now, without needing to be anything else. Have you ever sat in a quiet room and truly noticed the sound of your own breath? The gentle rise and fall of your chest? The soft whisper of air moving in and out of your body? It's in those simple observations that the wisdom of mindfulness reveals itself. You begin to sense that life is not something happening outside of you. It's unfolding here, in this moment, through you, and with that awareness comes compassion, not only for yourself, but for others. When you slow down and create space in your mind, you begin to see that everyone is carrying their own battles, their own invisible storms, the harsh word from a stranger, the distant gaze from a loved one. Suddenly, you recognize those as signs of their suffering, not reflections of your worth. Silence teaches us patience. It reminds us that not every question demands an immediate answer. Not every discomfort needs to be solved right away. Some things simply need to be witnessed, held, and allowed to pass in their own time, like a storm rolling over the mountains. No matter how fierce, it will eventually give way to clear skies. There's a timeless story of a young monk who approached his teacher. Desperate for peace. "Master," he pleaded, "my mind is noisy, my heart is restless, I can't find calm no matter how hard I try." The teacher smiled and pointed to a muddy pond nearby. "See how cloudy the water is when stirred," he said. "Now, leave it be." The monk watched as, over time, the dirt slowly settled to the bottom, and the water became clear again. "That," the teacher whispered, "is your mind when you stop trying to force it." Isn't it remarkable how often we create our own turbulence by struggling against what is? By trying to fix, control, or escape every emotion, we only stir up more clouds. But when we let things settle naturally, when we stop feeding the noise, clarity returns. This is the invitation of silence. Not to abandon life's responsibilities, but to meet them from a place of calm, steady awareness, to move through the world without being consumed by it, to speak when words are needed, and to be quiet when they are not. You'll find that in this quiet space, wisdom arises on its own. You don't have to search for it. Answers become clearer, not because you force them, but because you've made room for them to appear. And in doing so, you begin to experience a different kind of freedom, the kind that comes not from controlling the world, but from mastering your response to it. So as we close this part of our journey together, I invite you to carve out just a few moments of silence for yourself today. Perhaps it's a quiet walk beneath the evening sky, or a few mindful breaths before sleep. Let it be simple, let it be enough, and notice how even the smallest pause can ripple through your entire day. You might be wondering now, how do I begin? How can I bring this practice of silence into a world that rarely pauses? Into a life filled with demands, deadlines, and endless distractions? The beauty is, it doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the simpler, the better. Start small, one mindful breath before you pick up your phone in the morning. A quiet moment sitting by a window, just watching the light change. Notice how your body feels. The sounds around you, the subtle sensations you'd normally overlook. These are not trivial acts. In the teachings of the Buddha, it's said that awakening begins not in grand gestures, but in small, consistent moments of awareness. Have you ever noticed how a single candle can illuminate an entire room? The darkness doesn't fight it. It simply fades away. Silence works much the same way within us. The more we invite it in, even in small doses, the more it gently pushes away the noise, the anxiety, the relentless pressure to be somewhere else, to be someone else. And what's most surprising is how quickly the body responds to stillness. The breath softens. The heart slows, the shoulders relax, as if releasing a burden you didn't realize you were carrying. It's a kind of coming home to yourself, not in the future, not in some imagined better version of you, but right here, in this unrepeatable moment. The Buddha often spoke of the middle way, a path that avoids both extremes of indulgence and harsh denial. In the same spirit, the practice of silence isn't about retreating from life or renouncing the world. It's about learning to walk through your days with greater ease, greater clarity, and a deeper sense of presence. To speak when it's wise, to be quiet when it's kind, and to listen, not just with your ears, but with your whole being. You'll begin to notice the difference it makes in your relationships too. When you listen more and speak less, you start hearing what people aren't saying. The sigh beneath their words. The hesitation before they answer. You see them not as characters in the story of your life, but as fellow travelers, each carrying their own hopes and heartbreaks. And in those moments, compassion arises naturally. You don't have to force it. Silence softens the heart. It allows you to meet people, and yourself, without armor, without the constant need to defend, prove, or explain. It opens a quiet space where understanding blooms. There's an old saying in the Zen tradition, when the mouth is closed, the mind begins to speak. And in that silent conversation, you may hear something you've missed for years, your own wisdom. The quiet, steady voice beneath the chaos. The part of you that knows what matters, what can be let go, and where peace truly lives. So, As you move through the rest of your day, notice where you might leave a little more space, a few more pauses between tasks, a little less urgency in your thoughts, a little more kindness in your gaze, not as a chore, but as a gentle, sacred gift to yourself, because in those moments, you're not just finding silence, you're finding yourself, and perhaps, you'll come to see that you were never really lost to begin with. As you deepen your connection to silence, something subtle yet extraordinary begins to unfold. You realize that silence is not just a pause between words or a break in conversation. It becomes a living, breathing presence, a space within you that you can return to at any moment. No matter what's happening around you. Imagine walking through a dense forest. Sunlight filtering softly through the leaves. The air carries the scent of earth and wildflowers. And the only sounds are the gentle rustle of branches and your own footsteps on the path. In that space, the noise of the world falls away. You feel a natural stillness. Not because the world has changed, but because you've tuned into something deeper. That is the kind of silence Buddhist teachings invite us to discover within ourselves, a sanctuary untouched by circumstance. And here's the beautiful paradox: the more comfortable you become with silence, the more alive the world around you feels. You start to notice things you never did before. The intricate patterns of clouds drifting across the afternoon sky. The way sunlight catches in the folds of a curtain. The delicate texture of a flower petal. It's as if the ordinary world reveals its extraordinary beauty. Once you've quieted the noise inside. In those moments, you may find yourself wondering, how much have I missed while lost in thought? How many simple, sacred details of this life have slipped by unnoticed, because my mind was too preoccupied to see them? It's a humbling realization, but also a gift, because from this moment on, you can choose differently, and perhaps, that's one of the greatest powers of silence. It returns us to presence. It gently reminds us that life is happening now. Not in some distant future we're striving toward. Not in memories of what's already past. But here, in this breath, in this heartbeat, in the light falling across the room. One of the Buddha's most profound teachings is this: do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. But concentrate the mind on the present moment. In silence, we finally create the space to live this wisdom. To stop chasing, stop regretting, and simply be. And when difficulties arise, as they inevitably will, silence gives us the courage to face them without panic. To sit with discomfort rather than frantically reaching for distractions. To meet fear, sadness, or uncertainty with steady awareness. Not by denying our feelings, but by witnessing them with compassion, knowing they too will pass. There's a quiet strength in this, a resilience born not from hardening ourselves, but from softening into what is real. It's like the bamboo in a storm, it bends, it sways, but it does not break, because it trusts its own flexibility. In the same way, when we anchor ourselves in silence, we learn to weather life's inevitable storms without losing our center. So, as this practice deepens, notice how silence begins to move with you, how it lingers like a gentle echo after a meditation, or how it steadies your breath before you speak. It's not something you'll need to force. Like the dawn, it will come quietly, in its own time, offering peace to the places within you that have long been waiting. And in those quiet moments, perhaps you'll discover what so many seekers before you have found, that beneath all the noise, all the striving, and all the uncertainty, you are already whole. And so, dear friend, as we come to this point in our reflection, perhaps you're beginning to feel what ancient teachers knew so well, that silence isn't emptiness. It isn't absence. It's presence in its purest, most vivid form. It's the moment when you no longer need to fill the space with words or rush to fill every pause. You simply allow things to be as they are. And in that, you meet life exactly where it's unfolding. There's a gentle kind of wisdom that grows in these quiet places. A knowing that doesn't shout, doesn't demand attention, but arrives like morning light slipping silently through the window. It softens the edges of your heart, reveals what truly matters, and reminds you that not everything requires your immediate reaction. Have you ever noticed how nature moves in perfect rhythm without a single word? The trees don't argue with the wind. The river doesn't complain as it flows around a rock. The clouds don't rush across the sky. Yet they always arrive where they're meant to be. In the same way, when you allow silence to take root in your life, you begin to move with the natural rhythm of things. You stop forcing, you start flowing, and in that gentle flow, something else awakens: gratitude. A quiet, sincere appreciation for things you may have once overlooked. The warmth of a cup of tea in your hands. The sound of rain against your roof. The steady beat of your heart, carrying you through one more precious day. It's often in silence that we realize how many small miracles surround us. Silence also teaches us to trust ourselves. Not the anxious voice of the mind that always demands certainty and control, but the deeper, quieter knowing that lives in your chest, in your gut, in the steady pulse beneath your skin. That part of you that somehow knows when to stay, when to go, when to let go, and when to hold on. The wisdom that isn't taught in books, but revealed in stillness. And so, as you leave this video and step back into the rhythms of your own day, I hope you'll carry a little of this silence with you, not as an escape, but as a companion, a presence you can return to when the world feels too loud, or your heart feels too heavy. Even one mindful breath, one quiet moment watching the sky, can shift the entire direction of a day. Let it be simple, let it be enough. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need hours of free time or a distant retreat. You only need a willingness to pause, to listen, to be here, and perhaps you'll find, as countless others have across centuries, that what you've been searching for isn't somewhere far away. It isn't hidden in the future. It's quietly waiting for you, right here, in the gentle, unshaken stillness of your own heart. As we bring this reflection to a close, I want to thank you for walking this quiet path with me today. In a world that constantly pulls us toward noise, distraction, and endless motion, it takes courage to pause, to turn inward, to listen for what is real, steady, and unchanging within you. May you carry these moments of stillness into your day, into your conversations, into the choices you make and the way you meet whatever arises. Remember, silence isn't something we visit only when life feels calm. It's a refuge we can return to even in the middle of chaos. Especially in the middle of chaos. When the mind grows restless, return to the breath. When the heart feels heavy, return to the stillness beneath it. And when the world feels too loud, remember that there's a quiet place within you, untouched by the storm. If today's reflection spoke to you, if you found even a small moment of peace, or a reminder you needed, I gently invite you to support this space by liking this video and subscribing to Daily Dharma Wisdom. It helps us share these ancient, healing teachings with more souls seeking calm in the noise. And if you know someone whose heart might need a little silence, a little peace, feel free to share this video with them. Sometimes, a single moment of stillness can change the course of an entire day. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing presence over distraction, calm over chaos, and wisdom over noise. Until we meet again, may you walk gently, breathe deeply, and rest often in the beautiful, healing power of silence. Namaste.